Good morning and welcome to the program, everyone. Another 2.4 million Americans filed for unemployment insurance last week, even as states across the U.S. began opening up for business again, betting that the coronavirus pandemic is under control. The latest unemployment figures are now saying that close to 39 million Americans have lost their jobs in just the past 9 weeks. The rate of weekly losses has slowed sharply from its peak of 6.6 million at the start of April, but remains at levels unseen since the 1930s Great Depression. This week, the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, said he expects unemployment to continue to rise to historic levels, even as the pandemic continues to take its toll, and also warned of permanent damage to the economy if the lockdowns are prolonged. We are in a brand new economy. Many Americans are trying to find jobs, any job, to help put food on the table. But is it possible, even in this crazy economy, to find your dream job? The key is to be proactive rather than reactive in attracting a new job, says my guest, Patrick Howe. Patrick is a leadership consultant with Advisa in Indianapolis. Prior to joining Advisa, Patrick's sales and leadership experience allowed him to build new coaching, sales effectiveness, onboarding, and leadership development programs for Comcast NBC Universal. Patrick is passionate about helping clients and people just like you grow revenue by growing their people. Patrick has been married to his lovely wife, Jenny, for 22 years, and they are the parents of Irish triplets, meaning they have twins that are graduating from high school right now and one child who is a junior. Patrick, welcome to the program. Good to have you here today.
Good to be with you, Coz. I love spending time with you for sure.
Hey, it's always good to get a little FaceTime, even with our very similar mugs.
Yes.
Patrick and I share the same lack of barbering skills.
I've had a lot of friends comment on the advertisement that you put out there. Look at those two bald heads. So
I know. We used to say that. And I grew this just for you. I let this go for a day and a half just to catch up to your 3 years of growth.
I love it. Beautiful.
Hey, so let's just check in with you personally. How has the pandemic affected life for you and Jenny and the kids there in Indy?
We're like everybody else. You know, it's been a whirlwind of anxiety, wonderment, concern, fear, but also potentially hope and opportunity that, hey, we're going to learn and grow from this. We can stay healthy. We can help others grow too. So I think we're experiencing, like everybody else, a range of emotions that just don't seem to stop.
What's the pulse of business there in Indy? What are you hearing?
You know, I think it's like everybody else, trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. The state is certainly starting to reopen. I think we're in stage 2 or 3 of reopening, seeing more people out. You know, you see a balance of people with face masks. You see some without. Everybody kind of doing their own thing in some cases. Restaurants doing their best. Businesses doing their best. Some of our clients have really blossomed, you know, depending on the vertical they're in. Some are struggling, and we'll support everybody. You know, gosh, ad nauseum, you've heard we're in this together, and we really are, right? So everybody doing everything they can to try to remain positive and help each other forward. That's what we're doing. Very
good. And what are you hearing from some of your cohorts and clients as you work with Countrywide clients there at Advisa?
Yeah, so our clients, again, we support clients of all different types and sizes. Tech businesses, medical, manufacturing, construction, a little bit everybody. Some have really, some food manufacturing clients are really crushing it right now. They're focusing on keeping their employees safe. You know, some have really done an amazing job of educating their employees, their leaders. We're trying to provide services to them so they can help those leaders navigate those conversations with their employees. Some are struggling. You know, some clients, their business has fallen precipitously, over the last few months. And so we're trying to help them too. So how do you let people go? And then, but also what we're seeing a lot of now is how do you prep them and prepare them for regrowing that sales force? How do we bring in the right people for the right job fit? Bring people back in a safe way so they're not paralyzed or frozen with getting back in the workforce. And how do they navigate that passionately, constructively, and really in a way that's going to be effective for their clients as well. So we're helping clients navigate all different scenarios because everybody's kind of in a different boat at this point.
So about a year ago, you were in corporate America at Comcast, NBC Universal, and you made a transition and took a little time off to watch your son play golf and enjoy a little bit of a sabbatical before you went back to work.
Right.
But let's tee up this whole concept of it is possible to attract your dream job. However, as we said in the introduction, it's to be proactive rather than reactive. So let's talk about your journey in finding Advisa. So let's first start by saying that when you decided to go back to work, you sent out the resumes, you did the traditional thing. Tell us a little bit about that experience, then how you hired the coach, made the pivot, and what your experience was in finding and attracting the opportunity to you.
Sure. Everybody seems to want to take a formulaic approach to finding that next job, right? I know what I do. I'll go to the job boards, put the resumes out there, look for some keyword searches, help me apply that. And then I really felt like where people were doing things like, this job, it's about 40% of what I do, but maybe I can mold myself to fit that role. I just decided early on, I don't want to do that at this point in my career. I just didn't want to take this formulaic approach. So through lots of research, lots of support from other people, I said, I'm going to, do what I've done is find a coach, find somebody that can help me really do some self-awareness, some self-evaluation of what am I passionate about? What do I really want to do? And I'm not obtuse to the fact that I know not everybody can afford to hire a coach right now, but there are tons of free resources out there for self-awareness gathering. 360 with your family and friends and former coworkers, taking assessments that are online for free, just writing down, doing a Ben Franklin, pros and cons of what I like in an office or what I like in a career and what I don't like. And then, so I did a lot of that to just say, okay, what am I really passionate about? And you nailed it in the intro. I'm passionate about helping organizations grow their revenue by growing their people. Because we came up with that as our mission statement years ago. So that's what I said. I'm going to find organizations that are truly passionate about growing their people and internally and growing their clients' people as well. I want to work in kind of a smaller organization that's more nimble, more people-oriented. And so that's what I did. That's kind of the genesis of it, is start with figuring out what you do want to do, the kind of people you want to work with, how you want to be spending the majority of your time every week. That's what I did. And it came down to, that's probably working with consulting firms, leadership consulting firms. Didn't want to move. So just reaching out to probably 15 of those firms, 10 to 15 in the market I'm in, and literally contacting them. Because this is the big thing that I think people struggle with. They're looking for a job opening, and then they're trying to find that. I think what the opportunity is going to be over the next 90 days, next 180 days, everybody needs to find a job. I get that. That might be a short-term solution, but what I'm passionate about is figure out what you want to do and proactively go to those companies. I work with a lot of companies. They're looking to hire good talent. And so you being proactive and going to them, even if there's not a job opening, most likely they'll talk to you if you're passionate about something and you're talented in something, and you say, hey, I think your company aligns with what I do, what I want to do. I'd like to just have a conversation about it. I don't see any job openings right now, but I'd like to tell you what niche I fill because I think there could be a match for us. I don't know any employer that wouldn't take some time if somebody was that passionate and had the chops behind them to do it.
So it goes back to a mindset or a philosophy that we are all in sales. So what you're talking about here is, even if you're not in sales, you've got to put on the sales hat and say, if I were to sell my products and services, which in a way you're selling the brand called you, and you're saying, I want to sell myself to this company. So let's start by making an ideal prospect list. I got to go get the appointments. I've got to get in front of those folks. I've got to demonstrate value. Take us through that process that it really is selling the brand called you.
It is. I'll articulate a story of a gentleman I just spoke to in the last week. Super passionate, has his master's in leadership for non-for-profits, and is passionate about the finance side of non-for-profits. But he lost his role. And right now he's doing plumbing to make ends meet. And he thought, wow, should I tell him that I'm doing plumbing right now? I think that's happening for millions of people. I think that's the most noble thing somebody could be doing right now, is doing whatever you can to provide for your family, put food on the table. There is no doubt that that's a noble thing. And I think most employers would support that. But he did ask, okay, how do I get back to doing what I love? And so I did say that, and I've said this to a lot of people, is you are in sales right now. You need to think like a salesperson. You're not the leader of a non-for-profit. You're in sales. And so that's a lot of skills that go along with that. I told him to buy the book Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount. That's how you need reps. You need to know, what is your elevator pitch? What is your tagline? What makes you unique? What's your brand? And if you can't articulate that to somebody in 15 to 20 seconds or less, how are they supposed to know what you're passionate about? So when I tell people, hey, I'm going to help your organization grow their revenue by growing your people, that they write that down. Like, wow, that's pretty good. That makes sense. It's something they can remember, something they can tag onto. So a book like Fanatical Prospecting will help you start thinking like a salesperson to get that appointment. That's the first step in sales, is to get the appointment, right? And so I think anybody that looking into buying a sales book, sales methodology book, is going to help you, because this is all a process in it. Whether you're in IT, healthcare, you're a chef, whatever, doesn't matter. You're in sales right now if you're looking for a job.
And just like in sales, you've got to be clear as to what you're selling. You've got to be clear about what you're selling, which again, to that point, the brand called you. It's not features and benefits, right? But value. Yeah. So we know that according to labor statistics right now, as many as 40% of small businesses could be out of business. Now, we know since 2009, 80% of all new jobs were created in the small business sector, meaning 50 employees or less. So we need to adopt a new mindset that job that we were furloughed from or that we left recently might never be there ever again. So we've got to reinvent ourselves. In fact, you've got another recommendation. Patrick is the consummate reader. And the thing I love about Patrick, and he can't share these with everyone because there's so much work, but Patrick does the best Cliff Notes. So one of the things I enjoy, one of my prized possessions on my hard drive, is when Patrick reads a book, he takes notes and he writes out his own Howe notes, right? The Howe notes, like Cliff Notes, but the Howe notes.
Yeah.
And synthesizes great information. Give us the gist of reinventing yourself. It's what the book you recommended is Reinventing You by Dorie Clark.
Totally.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So as we approach a prospect trying to get that appointment, we got to reinvent us and know what value we bring to the organization. Where do we start?
Truly, and it's hard for a lot of people because a lot of people think that they're bragging. If I'm talking about myself, I'm bragging, and I don't want to tell that story. Well, if you're not going to tell your own story, how's anybody else supposed to tell your story for you? We think people around us kind of know what our brand is and they'll articulate it for us. And if we call somebody and say, hey, we want to talk to you about a job, well, tell me about yourself. Well, I've done IT for 12 years and so have a lot of other people. So Reinventing You book is really good about really some introspection. Again, that self-awareness of what am I passionate about, but how do I articulate that story in a concise way that compels somebody else to go, wow, they are unique. I need to at least talk to them. So it's a journey people need to take, because you've got to tell that story in a compelling way, or you're just like the 35 million other people out there saying the same thing, the same tired story. It's harsh to hear that your story might be tired, but unless you can make it unique and specific to you and show your passion and with your emotion, then nobody else is going to be able to do that for you or with you.
Can you imagine being a hiring manager, even when the labor market was tight, but especially now as everybody's desperate trying to pitch to get a job? They sound like Charlie Brown's teacher in the background, right? Wah, 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 wah. And totally. Everybody just sounds the same. Your batting average when you were just playing the job board game was what was your batting average?
Way below the Mendoza line. If I applied to 75, 100 roles, again, I've got a lot of experience in leadership development and all these different things, jobs that literally look like they were written for me. Goose egg on the vast majority of it. So
you sent out 75 to 100 resumes, and how many singles did you get to stand on first base?
Didn't. A lot of Ks. And I'm generally a confident person. What happens to the millions of people with what's going on in the world, the economy, you can't get a job, you can't even get anybody to call you back, your morale, it just gets worse. You get into this deep, dark hole. And that's what I'm passionate about, is get out of that deep, dark hole, shift the paradigm from this reactive, woe is me, and nobody wants to talk to me, and flatter, because that's what comes across in interviews, low energy. So shift it to this proactive ownership. Here's what I'm passionate about. Here's what I do. Here's how I do it. Here's what makes me unique. That gives you energy. As opposed to being energy sapping, this is going to give you energy to do it. And again, I'm not naive to the fact that maybe this next role for you isn't the perfect one, but what you'll learn in this process is you start to own the dialogue as opposed to being reactive to it. It's possible to do, and it doesn't take that much investment or effort to make this work.
We're trying to solve a problem. And if they don't have a job posting, it just means that they haven't identified they have a problem they need a human resource to solve. And so many times it means networking, and that's a slower process to network. Yeah. But I would also say to those watching and listening today, you got to fly with eagles. It's interesting to me how many people hang out in the world of networking with people who could never make a hiring decision, right? I'm not going to discount any networking groups, but the natural tendency of people when they network is because of their fear factor is to just show up and go somewhere where they can hand out business cards hoping to get leads. What I'm talking about here is fly with eagles. If you want to be noticed by C-suite level people, you got to hang out where they do and be seen as one of them, and then serve those people. But develop a brand that you're trying to develop, and also understand what you're trying to solve for the business. I'll give you an example. So Patrick and I worked together years ago when Patrick developed the Coaching Academy in a division of Comcast NBC Universal. And I do have to say, Patrick, one of my all-time favorite bosses. I'm going to be transparent here. It was easy to get Patrick on the call because we worked together when I lived in Chicago and he lived in Indy. And maybe we can talk a little bit about coaching and what that is and what it is in a few minutes. But I just remember working with somebody who was hoping to be an account executive, and they said they really wanted to be an account executive. And I said, well, this is simple. And they said, well, this market's not hiring. I said, go to the senior leader. So in this case, back where we used to work, it was the regional vice president, an RVP. I said, get an appointment with that person and sit down and find out what the region needs. Oh, I could never get an appointment with that person. Why? And they said, well, that person's untouchable. I could never get an appointment. I said, all you're looking for is 15 minutes. So give 15 minutes and say, I just have some questions to ask you about how I can be more valuable to the organization. Of course, they got a 15-minute appointment. They were so surprised about that. And they went in with just a few questions. And the bottom line was they were trying to uncover what were the three needs of the market that they were hoping to get a job for. Came back with a presentation of the 3 ways they were going to solve or to solve those 3 problems. They were hired as an account executive. Okay. There was no position available. So that's what we're talking about here. There are companies out there, they don't have a job posting. In fact, 90% of jobs are never posted, right? They happen within networking. So you got to get out there and fly with eagles and get with the real decision makers, but then get in there and find out, where does the business hurt? Okay, as we go into post-pandemic here, it's a brand new world. They may not even know what they need yet. And so when you get in there with good, powerful questions and get them to think out loud, they may realize for the very first time exactly what they need. Then you can connect the dots, and you don't have to pitch. You can just come back and connect the dots of, here's what you need. Here's the value I bring to solve that problem. Take that a little bit further.
Yeah, Coz, preaching to the choir. I don't know if I can nod my head anymore there, because
we've got several hundred people on now. So let's talk to those folks who may not understand that concept.
Yes, I'll give you this one word. Write this down, underline it: curiosity. That's what people are looking for, is curiosity, because that means you're asking questions. You're passionate about something. You're digging for deeper. You're digging for truth. I don't know how many times we were hiring people for the coaching academy, and somebody go, yeah, I want to be a coach. I've been in sales a long time. I want to be a coach. What books have you read on coaching? What articles have you read on coaching? Well, not really. So if you're not curious about something, then how am I supposed to gauge that as that you're serious about something? So I love what you're talking about when you go talk to these people, but so many people, Coz, how many times have we done an interview where somebody, we could say, what questions do you have for me? I don't really have any. Do I get the job? That's inexcusable for what's happening these days.
Wouldn't you want that person to actually start the job interview by having questions?
That's how I've interviewed people, for sure, is to say,
exactly. Say, okay, so what questions do you have for me?
Fire away.
I thought you were gonna ask me questions.
Correct. Interview. If you look up the word interview is between. It's both sides are participating, and so many people overlook that as, if you do all this hard work and you're going to get these appointments with these decision makers, and even if it's just for coffee, if you're not curious and asking questions and exploring different things, how are they ever going to think that you're going to, be curious in the role that you get inside the organization? So, it's not just about being passionate about something, is can you let that curiosity emanate from you and lead to bigger and better things? Because how this journey goes is you meet these 15, 10 people, whatever you set up. Most likely the job doesn't come from them. It comes from them seeing the passion within you, the curiosity you have, the questions you have. That leads them to go, you need to talk to Joe Johnson over here. And that leads to the next one and the next one. That's how this game of finding that next, most powerful career works.
And don't be afraid. The saboteur is going to say, oh, you're not good enough to talk to that person. Oh, you're not, smart enough to reach out to that decision maker. I'm going to tell you right from the get-go, stretch that comfort zone. When you make your list of not only ideal jobs, but make that list of people that you want to finally connect with, that are the movers and the shakers in your market that you haven't reached out to because you were working somewhere. Now you don't have, the conflict of interest, so to speak. Get out there and get among them. And don't just show up at these events looking for business cards or leads. I'm going to make a pretty bold recommendation here. And if you're unemployed, then your job is to get a job, right?
Yeah.
Your full-time job is to get a full-time job. And so approach your daily schedule as though you're working a job. And what do you need to do if you were selling a new product? You got to fill the pipeline, right? You got to fill the pipeline of people to talk to. So make that ideal list and get out there and fly with eagles. And what I mean by that is, let's say that we used to say when I had my business years ago, and I was on the rubber chicken circuit speaking at luncheons every week to build my business. The Rotarians owned the city. The Kiwanians ran the city. So what I would do is I would offer my lunch speech to Rotary clubs. And I was at a different Rotary club every Wednesday and Thursday in Salt Lake City in my early 20s to build my business. And that allowed me to get in front of 20 or 30 business owners. And I never had to give a commercial of who I was, what I did, and why it was important to them, because they just saw the value of who I was and what I was saying, and they would approach me. So what I'm going to say here too is it's your full-time job to get a full-time job, and you're meeting these people. Don't just become a name on the roster somewhere, right? And saying, well, I showed up at the ABC networking group, right? Some acronym, and I'm looking for leads. No, be part of a subcommittee, be part of a task force. Get so entrenched in that organization that as your experience with that group grows, they're going to say, hey, what is it that Patrick Howe guy does? Oh, well, he's actually a leadership consultant. Well, I'll tell you, if he's any leadership consultant like he was for our gala that we just had, I would want to hire somebody like him. So how do you prove yourself? How do you show people? How do you demonstrate? How do you give people that Costco piece of cheese? Serve them. Show them what you're made of in advance.
Yeah, Coz, and here's what's going to happen. One of the tools, data tools we use, it advises predictive index, and some may have heard of it. One of the innate drives for people is this extroversion drive, the need to influence people and emotions. Some people are at the opposite end of that, and they're going to think, I'm introverted. I don't really like people. I don't like to go to these networking things. It's just not me. But we can all adapt our behaviors, for short amounts of time if we need to. So for those folks that say, no, not for me. I don't like the group thing. I don't like connecting with others. I'm just going to keep doing the job board thing. That's prolonging the pain. So find people that will help you adapt those behaviors, or how to do it, or how to say things. Use books, use practice sessions. So many times people want to go into these interviews cold. Practice with somebody at home. Work out all the bugs of your delivery. Say, hey, when I give my elevator pitch to you, does it make sense? Does it sound passionate? How would you make it better? There's so many ways to practice and adapt your behaviors to fit what is needed right now to get a job. You can't just try to do what you think. Everybody thinks this is how you get a job: is you apply online, you get some interviews, you say what you need to say, and you get the job. The world doesn't exist anymore. So putting yourself out there beyond what your innate needs and drives might be is going to be critical going forward for millions of people.
Mike Wilczynski in the Chicagoland area said 90% of the leaders that he invited out to coffee said yes.
Amazing.
And you don't have to have some grandiose objective when you invite somebody to coffee, do you?
You really don't. No, I have not met. I deal with leaders of organizations all over, all different sizes. I have not met one that if somebody was passionate and said, hey, you lead this organization, know you're a busy person, but I'm passionate about this piece, and I think, I would just love to pick your brain for 15 minutes. I don't know anybody that would, say no to that. I really don't, unless they were truly compelled that, I'm too busy, I'm out of town, I've got, COVID-19 has taken over everything. But finding their moments, most people are willing to do that because everybody's looking for good talent in their organization. They're constantly looking for that. That's why I have the job that I have. We're always looking for people that can fit the jobs that they need and fit how they're trying to grow their organization. So I totally agree with Mike. Just make the call. If somebody says no, doesn't kill you. You just move on to the next person.
You're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes.
Yeah, so that's okay.
Right?
Yep. And that's the other thing about fanatical prospecting. Too many times, and this happens to a lot of salespeople, they got rejection once from the CEO of this company. I'm not saying pester them 100 times, but what about mixing it up? The phone call becomes the email, becomes the LinkedIn connection, becomes the Facebook connection. Suddenly they go, hey, you know what? That's the fourth time this guy's called me. I'm kind of busy, but I'm curious because he's at least persistent. There's a balance between persistence and being a pest, but so many salespeople give up after one try, after two tries. Fanatical prospecting, Jeb would suggest you got to try 8 times, 10 times. We're in you're in a world that to get somebody's attention is very hard. The way media consumption is changing and everything. So persistence is going to pay off.
Well, and you and I have both been in the hiring situation, and I will make an admission. Here's a confession for you. When I've hired before and people have followed up and called, I didn't pick up the phone. I wanted them to go to voicemail because I want to hear the voicemail message.
Yeah.
I want to read the email. I want to see, did they send me a handwritten card, right? It's a dance.
Truly.
And even if I loved them, I'm not going to just make an offer on the spot.
Nope.
So you've got to demonstrate what your package is, right? And let's talk for a second, Patrick, about behavioral questioning in the interviewing process, because I think this is important. Realize people really are not hiring for a job description. That's just what HR has put out there because they need this, this box around what this job is. But someone is actually hiring for a problem solver. They're hiring somebody who's a good communicator. They're hiring somebody who's courageous. Mm-hmm. They're trying to hire someone who's creative. We'll demonstrate that, right? If all you're ever doing is just sending emails, then you're like everybody else. But what if they really like Rocky Road ice cream and you know that? Now, this may sound a little crazy, but I want you to get creative. Maybe you have somebody hand deliver a 5-gallon bucket of Rocky Road ice cream with a handwritten note. Do you think that might get the appointment? This is sales 101. And when you're selling you got to be creative.
First, Coz, the 5-gallon bucket of Rocky Road sounds disgusting to me, but
well,
it would, his own.
It would be for you for a clean, when you got more pins than a Chinese phone book, it's appropriate. So I don't know, bag of baby carrots for you.
Yeah, no, but it is true. We're constantly helping our clients with predictive index as kind of a data point to really find job fit. Everybody has natural strengths, things that give them energy, but we also have things that we don't like to do. And so a lot of times I find employers are trying to find, okay, how have you adapted for these things that might be considered a weakness or a liability? How do you modify your behavior to adapt to it? Nobody's perfect. I think that's what I see a lot of times with people applying for jobs or trying to even get the appointment. They're looking for the yearbook answer, and they're looking for, I got to say this a certain way, and I got to become something I'm not. I think, look at Hollywood, right? It's all about people that are like unique. They try to set themselves apart in a certain way, and so they get cast in a certain role. Or rock stars do that, right? They just sing whatever they're ever passionate about. When most people are trying to find a job, they try to homogenize themselves and become some clone because they think that's going to make themselves stand out. It's just like an inverse proportion of the thinking is just totally backwards on how that works. So yes, it is. Do something unique. Talk about a liability you have. You know what? I'm not really good with, I'm very good connecting with people, but the detail work I don't like. But here's how I've adapted to it over time. Here's how I surround myself. If I'm a leader looking for a leadership role, here's how I adapt and surround myself with people that are more detail oriented so I can focus on driving the strategy of the business forward. That's self-awareness. Every leader, I speak to leaders all the time about, here are my blind spots. What do I do about these blind spots? Here's some ideas. But that's part of it. You have the emotional intelligence to know you have blind spots. Don't shy away from them. Embrace them. That tells people that you've become a more robust, self-aware person that's probably capable of growing even more in an organization.
And won't that leader really respect the candor and vulnerability?
Yeah. Some do, some don't, but I would say the vast majority do.
Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting next, right? And if they don't, do I really want to work for that person?
Yeah.
Remember, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. This whole notion of I'm trying to get a job, I'm trying to close the deal. No. We're trying to find a mutually beneficial long-term career relationship here.
Yeah.
It's as much about them qualifying to work with you as it is you working with them.
The facts are there. To retain an employee is so much less expensive than hiring a new one. we talk about clients and their churn rates of employees. Some of them just are flabbergasting how high they are. So yes, if I can make a more educated decision on hiring somebody, and not just because they were extroverted and it was, we really got along well, but knowing what their needs are and where their liabilities might be and how they've addressed that, how they've grown, how their maturity has grown over time. And yeah, they're sticky and they're going to stay, and I can teach them things. Those are all things that employers are desperately looking for, but you have to be able to articulate that story, talk about those vulnerabilities, turn them into positives, tell that story in a way, because just looking at a piece of paper is not going to do it.
And is that how you use the predictive index with an employer, is so that you can design that alliance to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is my blind spot, these are my strengths?
Yeah. We use that as a data point. It's a very powerful data point to get job fit. Somebody going to fit this job. Are they going to like it? Or their natural drives and needs be met by doing this job. Not everybody, but people are complex. We're not just certain needs and drives. People are complex, but we're looking to see at least if they have the foundational rocks to feel like they're going to like this job long term. And then we support them with growth opportunities around that. And if somebody comes in passionate about growing and learning, then the sky's the limit. But it's hard for employers to even have that powerful data to pull that out in interviews sometimes. So we have to have very descriptive interview guides and questions to ask, because some people come in not prepared to tell their story, not passionate about something. They're just going through the motions of answering questions to try to get the job. They can still maybe get a job sometimes that way, but I think the people that are listening today, probably a lot of them are passionate about, I want to go do something I like. We don't want the job. We want to have a career. The great book, The Progress Principle. People want to know that their contribution matters in an organization and that they're making progress. Will we have setbacks and bad days? Sure. But they're outweighed by me growing and knowing that I'm going to do better, bigger and better things.
We teed up this session by saying how to attract your dream job. Katie Freilich asked the question, how do I know what my dream job is? How can we go through the predictive index process, or just even the introspective, to decide what it is that sets our heart on fire, and then connecting that with an organization that can use it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways you can get to the predictive index. There are a lot of assessments out there. They're all helpful. What I would say is, just if you can't afford to do some things, there are plenty of free things out there, online that you can find. It's about asking yourself powerful questions. The 360 assessments. Ask your last boss, what did I do really well? What did I struggle with from your perception? Ask your spouse, or loved one of, when do you see me most excited about a job? What am I doing with that? You can ask all kinds of people around you to help start honing in on what you're really passionate about. Lots of open-ended questions. There are coaches out there probably right now that will give you free sessions, or I don't know, maybe I should say that, but short sessions just to ask some powerful questions to start you on this journey of self-evaluation, self-understanding. Hopefully everybody on this, if you got the internet service, you can afford a $10 book like Reinventing You. Good place to start there. Or just say, hey, ask Google, how do I narrow into what I'm really passionate about and what I should be doing? I'm sure a bazillion resources pop up. So don't let that be excuses. I don't know what I want to do. We don't have to know exact job, but what are we curious about? What excites us? What websites do we go to learn about things? If you're passionate about cars and you're constantly going to car sites like I am, maybe I should be in the car business, and selling cars or those kind of things. That it's up to you to decide, but it shouldn't take that much effort to really start honing in.
Well, and you're coming from a framework of what jobs used to look like.
Yeah.
How many jobs are there that didn't exist when you were looking for a job 5 years ago, 1 year ago? Many of these jobs will be created from the ground up now. They might not actually exist until you get with a key leader or decision maker and they create the job for you.
Yes.
We've had that happen before, right? When I worked for you, a job didn't exist,
Yep.
and it was co-created together because the organization had a need and the position was created for it. My entire experience with that division of the company was finding a need and filling it.
It's sure. Myopia is it's a common thing. Hey, I've done this thing. I've been in IT for 15 years. I don't necessarily like it, but it's what I know. It's what I've done. And if I get off the path, that could be scary. That's the other thing people need to know. Take the other path. It's not a life sentence. It might be a year and you go, you know what? I tried it. I learned a lot. It doesn't have to be a forever life sentence for something. You can always go back and try something different. Reinventing yourself. We've got to reinvent ourselves. I heard an economist say recently that, because of the baby boomers retiring and everything going on, when the world comes back, there won't be enough people to fill all the jobs. And most of the jobs, we don't even know what they are yet. So reinvent yourself in a certain way and know if a year goes by and you say, hey, this isn't it, you can pivot. There's no rule against it. And most organizations would say, you had this year pivot over here. What'd you do? You know what? I was really curious about this thing over here. I gave it my all. I learned about it, but I realized that wasn't for me. Now I feel like I'm going to go this direction. No worries. At least you tried something. People are looking for initiative, proactive nature, all those different things. So be nimble. It will serve you well.
We're going to jump into a little lightning round with Patrick. One of the things. What was that? What was?
Oh boy, lightning round.
What was that gasp? I'm looking at your nonverbal, and you sat back in the chair and took a deep breath. What does that mean?
It felt like I was on Jeopardy all of a sudden. I got to get my game face on here. Are there prizes?
Your A game today, buddy.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's midday Eastern time, so you should be well ready to go. So the one thing I always loved about Patrick, we could be in an intense conversation and a movie line would pop out, right? And it always used to crack me up because we could be in meetings and again, the topic could be somewhat serious and then Patrick would throw out a movie line or I would, and people would look at you like, what does that mean exactly? And then we'd go right back to what you were talking about, and life was sweet when you had that kind of environment. So here, I'm going to share with you a couple of movie clips as they relate to job search, finding your dream job and attracting it to you. Name the movie, the major actor, and what the takeaway from the clip is.
What did I tell you fellas about shooting?
Aim small, miss small.
Aim small, miss small.
Mel Gibson. It's about the Revolutionary War, but I don't recall the name of the movie.
Patriot.
I believe it's called The Patriot. Good. Yeah, it came to me. Nice.
If you listen to your intuition, there's this still small voice that sometimes whispers, but you got to be in that place.
It is a bug in my ear. Yes.
What does that mean to aim small, miss small in the world of attracting the dream job?
Yes. So anybody that's listening right now is probably looking for a job. And so when people say, what kind of job are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for anything in healthcare or IT or anything that's, and suddenly it gets wider and wider and wider and wider. And what people are doing when they want to help you, but when you start doing this, they go, well, I don't even know where I'd go there. So aim small, miss small. That's a great clip because the more specific you are, the more people can start going through their mental Rolodex of helping you find somebody. So that's what I would start doing. People go, Patrick, what are you looking to do? I want to join a small, consulting firm in Indianapolis with less than 100 people in it. And they go, yeah, I do know one guy. Or, I don't know exactly that, but I know this thing over here. Is that good enough? Heck yeah, it is. But let them start getting their brain on something. The more you just kind of going, anybody that's hiring for sales right now, wow, that's about as wide as you can get. So anybody that's hiring for medical sales that is in the, dermatology branch. Okay, well, I don't know somebody in dermatology, but I do somebody over here. Is that okay? Sure. So aim small, miss small could be really impactful when people are giving you leads and opportunities.
Okay, you're 1 for 1 so far.
Oh, good.
A B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action. Attention. Do I have your attention? Interest. Are you interested? I know you are, because it's or walk. You close or you hit the bricks. Decision. Have you made your decision for Christ? And action.
I mean, if you're going to be in sales, you at least have to watch that once because it's all about the leads.
It is. Alec Baldwin, Glengarry Glen Ross. Fantastic movie.
Batting 1,000.
Yeah.
What does that mean to our viewers and listeners in terms of attracting their dream job?
Look, this is kind of how I try to roll with people these days is there can be a lot of woe is me. There's just like no jobs out there and everything. I think of that Godfather scene when, the movie star shows up and I didn't get the part. He says, "What can I do, Godfather?" Well, you can act like a man. That's kind of how I feel about all of us right now is we got to be like Alec Baldwin. You got to be bold. You got to get mad and mean and aggressive with this stuff because nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And nobody wants to see that. But so much of sales is body language and how you show up, all those things. So the fact that he's saying that, right? You got to get their interest. You got to pique it. Doesn't mean be a bull in a china shop, but show that you're passionate about something because you'll set yourself apart from all the other lemmings out there. That's what you're trying to do right now. So,
and in a tight job market, you may have been one of 100 people applying for a job. You might be one in 1,000 now. You've really got to separate yourself in the field.
Truly. And being a bit assertive, a bit confident, a bit aggressive, passionate, self-aware, all those things play into this. And whether it feels like, oh my gosh, I put this cloak on that doesn't feel like it's me. Sorry, but that's how you're going to get these appointments. That's how you're going to get these interviews. That's how you're going to get your next job.
Yeah, because if you're trying to find a job that fits you perfectly, you're going to be sitting home sheltered in place for a long time.
You might find that perfect job. And I've said it a few times, but I'm aware you might have to pivot. Like this gentleman I worked with, he pivoted to plumbing until he can find his perfect job. That is honorable and awesome. But don't stop the journey and think, okay, I gotta, if he's passionate about plumbing, then go do it. But if you're not, don't stop the journey towards what you really want. We all have the power to do that. It may take longer. It may be a multifaceted trail, but it'll happen if you just, put some of these things into action.
The what may change, but his reason why remained the same. I'm sure the reason he went and did some plumbing was to put food on the table, to your point, to make ends meet. That was the why. You can change your what. And if you have a big enough reason why to fuel your journey along, that makes a big difference. So be clear about the why. You and I have always talked about that. We start with the why.
Yeah, it makes me think of another good book idea for folks. I'm passionate about reading. The One Thing is a great book. Gary Keller, Jay Papasan. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but there's things you should be doing. And then narrowing down to those should be's and figuring out that one thing you should be doing. Great process and how to figure that out. Things you could be doing, things you should be doing. What's the one thing you should be doing? All these kind of have the same model of getting you narrowed down and focusing on what you need to do. Other jobs may be taking up the time between now and that career, but don't lose focus from it because it's there for you for the taking.
Ready for number 3?
Oh boy, yes.
Okay. All right. Wonder if you're keeping score at home as well. How you doing? Patrick's 2 for 2. Yes. Because when we go for the big one, if you don't know that one, then it's kind of all or nothing.
Yeah. This is how people do it now, Nikki. They have their interviews on the internet.
I like it.
I know, child. Okay, here they are. And when I hit this, they'll be able to see us. So come on and get in here close so we can be seen in the webcam. See how small the webcam is? No, get cheek to cheek. Nick, come here, cheek to cheek.
But don't crowd me.
We can see you guys.
Okay, great.
Good. You got us?
Hi, my name is Billy.
Oh, we can hear you fine as well.
Oh, great.
Good.
Billy McMahon.
Nick Campbell.
I'm Benjamin.
Allison, we're going to ask you a few questions that some of our candidates find a little bit odd.
Let's go.
No judgment. Shoot.
You're shrunken down to the size of nickels and dropped to the bottom of a blender. What do you do?
Love it. The Internship, and it's Vince Vaughn, and I forget the blonde dude's name, but fantastic movie. Owen Wilson. Yeah, boy, it's coming to me again. So yeah, awesome movie.
What's the takeaway from their experience trying to go to work for Google?
Two things there. One, I just was talking to a colleague of mine today about one of the things we're doing at Advise has been really helping companies be more effective at using Zoom and all the tools and capabilities it has and how to just make those meetings more effective. So the first thing I see is them cramming in there. It was kind of cracking me up because a lot of companies are still doing that. But we're all getting better at Zoom, right? The second thing there is being challenged by an employer with something you don't know. I think in that scene, they just kind of got to ramble on and making stuff up, and it's pretty hilarious. But I think it's okay to say, I don't know, something to that effect, as opposed to rambling on for 10 minutes incoherently. Sometimes it's just say, I don't know. I'd like to learn more, or I'll go find out, figure that out. That's another sales thing. You know, salespeople a lot of times will just fill in dead space with talking, and that can be a bad thing. Is if you don't know, you don't know, but you'll find out.
All right. You're doing great. There's one more, and there's a lot of things we can glean from this. So if you're keeping score at home, pay close attention to this one. Patrick, I bet you don't get this one.
What I was trying to say is that our new brake pads are really cool. You're not even going to believe it. Like, let's say you're driving along the road with your family, and you're driving along, la-li-la, woo, and then all of a sudden there's a truck tire in the middle of the road, and you hit the brakes. Whoa, that was close. Now let's see what happens when you're driving with the other guy's brake pads. You're driving along, and all of a sudden the kids are yelling from the back seat, I gotta go to the bathroom, Daddy. Not now. Truck tire. I can't stop. Help! There's a cliff. And your family's screaming, oh my God, we're burning alive! No, I can't feel my legs! In comes a meat wagon! Wee, wee, wee. And the medic gets out and says, oh my God! New guy's in the corner puking his guts out. All because you want to save a couple extra pennies. And to me, it doesn't...
Get out. Now.
Do you validate?
Now.
Well, that is a toughie. I'm going to go with Tommy Boy, Chris Farley, David Spade. It is a damn shame that was not an Oscar candidate, in my opinion.
I mean, what's up with the Academy?
It's brilliant movie. Okay, so to me, storytelling, that's what a lot of times we're not very good at storytelling, but that's what really draws people in. Maybe not in that particular scenario and setting somebody's office on fire.
That was a little over the top.
Yeah. But, you know, as opposed to saying, you know what, I got 13 years experience doing this. I've done this for 12 years. Here are the 5 jobs I had. Just by saying the words, let me tell you a story about what I did in my last role. People's ears perk up like a Great Dane because they want to hear a story. That's why Hollywood is how it is, because they tell stories. So can you think about putting your experience in certain stories that have kind of that arc, right? You know, of here was the problem, here's the situation, here's how I came in and used my influence to influence other people or solve the problem or whatever, and here's the resolution. So think about creating your stories based on your experience as opposed to just having a resume with here's the amount of time I spent in every role I had. So Tommy Boy's a great one. I wouldn't go that deep, but it could be powerful.
Yeah, don't light things on fire.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what job you're going
right,
for,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What I think what that also shows is some authenticity. You're gonna work there for years. They need to know you're getting. So be authentic as well.
And I know that's hard. That was one of the bits of feedback I got at Advisa is I like to tear it up, act like a crazy man and all that. But they were kind of going, we're still not sure who you are. You seem pretty reserved. And I would say, well, I can't show up as JoJo the circus boy. I'm still trying to get a job. But that's some good feedback for me is, if you got to show up, and I'm an extroverted person, and if it's still like, hey, maybe you're a little more too introspective in your interview, that's why practicing is key for people. If you got a big interview or you got one of these coffees coming up with a CEO, practice it a little bit with somebody in your family or a friend or a former colleague or whatever, and just say, hey, here, I want to tell you a couple stories. Do they resonate? Does it make sense? Is it impactful? So practicing your crafts. Athletes do it all the time, right? Tiger Woods, golf tournament the other day, they're all rehearsing their swing before they take the swing. We've got to do that as well.
Times.
Sorry?
A few thousand times.
Yeah. Too often in sales, we don't practice our craft. We just go out and, practice in front of paying customers. And that's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah. Let's not practice in front of the live people we worked so hard to get in front of, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let's wrap things up today with a little bit of a discussion about coaching. So you're a certified professional coactive coach, and you got through the coaching.
I think it's the Coactive Training Institute now. It was the Coaches Training Institute.
Coaches Training Institute. Now I knew they changed.
Are you? Yep.
And tell us why we should get somebody as a coach. Well, one, why should we look for a coach during these times? Yeah, and I will say to you, even if finances are tough, because put some skin in the game. If a coach is going to do it for free, a get acquainted session, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you'll probably take it a little more serious if there's a commitment and it hurts a little bit. But what should somebody look for in a coach? You got a coach to help you get where you're at right now, even though you're a certified coach. What was the power of you hiring a coach?
Yeah, first, Coz, as you know, being a coach yourself, even defining what coaching looks like, so many people think it's this ethereal, life coachy kind of thing. Or in an office setting, we think coaching is, hey, they did something wrong, go coach them and fix them. We think it's the, Newt Rockney, go tell them how to do something. Those are all, potentially good things. But coaching that we're talking about is, you used the word earlier, co-creating. A coach that you hire should be somebody that is really going to ask those powerful questions and draw things out of you. There's accountability with it too at the end. But first, we don't want anybody just telling you, let me ask you a few cursory questions and then just start getting to telling what to do. That's not coaching. Coaching is about naturally drawing it out of you because you are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. It's within you. A coach can draw that out of you, and it's a deep process of how they can draw things out of you to where you have your own aha moments. Because do we believe our own aha moments or somebody else's? Our own. So that's what a coach can be very powerful in doing. And at the end of that coaching session is accountability if the coach is good, because what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And how am I going to know you did it? Those are kind of questions a coach should be asking. Because if it just becomes, hey, we had a great session, and the next session is, did you do any of that? No, but here's a new thing I want to talk about. That's a waste of time and money and resources. So get somebody that's going to hold you accountable to the actionable steps that you came up with and thought were important. I would argue that if you find a coach out there, you can't afford a coach. There are all kinds of ranges and prices. If you can't find, someone might want to barter with you. What kind of professional service can you provide them that they might barter some of their time with you? So get creative and find a coach, because if somebody does those things, helps co-create a new future for yourself and puts accountability with it, that could get you that first step you need towards the successful new job.
Thank you, Patrick. That's very helpful information. I bring coaches on here for a reason, and that is I'm just a big advocate in getting good coaching. So you've been exposed to a great coach. And Patrick, just tell how folks can reach out and contact you if they need to.
Yeah, our website, advisausa.com. We'd love to support anybody if they're interested in predictive index more, assessments more, can help them. You see my email there on the screen. I'd love to connect with anybody. If somebody is passionate about these books, but doesn't like reading books, that maybe wants some of those cliff notes, I'd be interested in sharing those as well. I've done that with a lot of leaders. So I'm happy to share the knowledge and share the support.
And even though times are tough right now, 39 million unemployed Americans, there is still hope if we're willing to adapt, change, and reinvent ourselves, correct?
Absolutely. There are better days ahead. This too shall pass. I've been saying that a lot. This too shall pass. Remain positive. If you've showed up today, that says a lot. You took the time, you made the effort, you're listening, you're taking notes. Baby steps. That's what we're looking for. Make progress, and individual little steps forward will get you to that next place you want to be.
Patrick, it's always a pleasure to see you.
You too.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Coz, for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it.
Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Reach out to Patrick Howe if he can be of service to you. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you communicate more effectively with your prospects and clients, my contact information is in the notes below. Thank you very much, and have a great day.